My name is Stephen Hawking, and I used to listen to Raconteurs News.
Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News Preview for this Sunday evening. It's the 29th of April 2018. I remember to do that now, and now he's done that new intro for us. So I'm going to remember to say it, hopefully in future anyway. Well, it's a good evening to you. Hope you've had a great weekend. I've had a quiet weekend. That's just exactly what I wanted for this weekend. But we are back to full strength now. So I'd like to introduce the people that are going to be on Raconteurs News this week and doing the preview with us. It's my co-hosts Andy Young, Paul Webster and Aid Hardy, fresh from his holiday. Good evening, fellas.
Morning, guys.
Webby, I think you're muted, mate. I think you're muted, Webby, to be fair. I can't hear anything from you. How was your holiday anyway, Aid?
You must... Andy.
Yeah, my holiday was great. I've just spent the weekend getting over the jet lag. I landed back on Wednesday night. I had Thursday and Friday at work, so by Friday night I was dead. So I've just spent sort of Saturday and Sunday cuddling the dog, and here I am.
Cuddling the dog, is that a euphemism? Is it something you picked up in Thailand?
No, it's not a euphemism. It's a
like holiday from a holiday.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I've just as you went live, Jason, I just got a message from a young lady in Thailand. So
marvelous,
and I must point out she is a lady.
Okay,
that's where the description stops. There's no lady boy
after that. Listen, Aid. We had a discussion. We had a discussion while you were away, and we decided that you probably, because you were on your own, you probably thought, fuck it, I might as well have a go. Might as well have one go. No, but who's going to know? You're on your own. You're on your own on your holidays. You might, if you did, then, all the power to you, mate. All the power to you.
There was a chap staying in the same place as me, and every morning he was down having breakfast with his lady boyfriend, girl thing, friend. And, if each to their own, not my bag, but, if it makes the man happy, then fine.
Brilliant. Well, we can see that you're on the shots already. What about you, Andy? How did your weekend go? I know you were at the UFO Truth South Conference, and I've seen some pictures from there, and it looks like it were a lot of fun. What happened there?
Yeah, it was absolutely great. The speakers were absolutely top notch, as always with Gary's conferences. He runs a great show. It was run with the usual military precision, so there weren't speakers running all over the place and break times not being when they should be. All ran to schedule, and it wasn't just the speakers. It's like the old crowd that Gary has there helping him, his family, Tino. There was Mark there. There was a guy called John, I think. There's his sound man and video guy. But it wasn't just them. It was also the whole crowd that were there. There's lovely people go to them. Every time you go, there's always familiar faces there once you've been to one. And also there's new faces, and people who, this is my first time here. What's the crack, and it's nice to chat to new people as well.
Brilliant, cool. So you've obviously had a good time. Well, what about you, Paul? What have you been doing this weekend? Give us an update on Paul's weekend. I suppose it were a bit of a whirlwind. There'll be a lot of drugs and women and clubs and that sort of thing. Tell us what you've been doing this weekend, Paul.
Work.
Okay.
That's all I've done this weekend. It's my weekend on, so it's work. That's why it was an E-shift today, so I was a bit lucky yesterday. I was a main shift, so that's an all day, but I got toil for the afternoon, so I only worked the morning yesterday, I only worked the morning today. Just started in a new place, so just getting a feel for it again now.
Awesome. And what's your feelings about Liverpool's chances on Wednesday night?
It's in our hands, isn't it? It's one of those. I think we could have done without giving them that little bit of hope by letting them have 2 goals. But it's just typical of how Liverpool play. You get used to it. You expect them to score, but you don't expect them to, keep it tight at the back, so to speak. That's not a reference to Thailand either, Ed.
Your mic's off, AD, mate. Your mic's
He's
off.
done an Andy.
I didn't realise we just flipped over to football. That happened fucking quick. What happened there?
Jason's good at that.
You see, we're on about UFOs, and I'm looking at that silver disc behind Webby's head, and I thought he'd got his tin hat ready.
Jason actually thought, no, was it you, Jason? Thought it was a window with shrubbery outside.
I thought it was a porthole. I thought it was like a porthole type window, and it had got like some sticks and twigs and that outside it. You know, like one of them things that grow in them places that are not near you.
Well, I've got to admit, lads, with the show doing so well, I've been bought off now. I'm actually in my luxury yacht. I'm on board the yacht in near Marseille. Oh. Can I get to Marseille in a boat?
What is that? Is that to go with that new £7 mic you've got?
Say again.
Is that to go with that new £7 microphone you've got?
Actually, that was £11.
Was it?
Speaking of yachts, I'll be on the high seas myself as of May the 18th because we're going on holiday and we're going to on a narrowboat. So that should be the similar sort of thing, isn't it? Having a big yacht and a narrowboat.
Well, that's providing you don't die next week.
Well, yeah.
So, have you got a pirate outfit ready?
Oh, what?
Have you got a pirate outfit ready for this holiday? You've got to wear a pirate suit if you're going on a fucking boat.
Oh, yeah, fucking hell, yeah, pirate. And I'm going to teach Watson to sit on my shoulder dressed as a parrot. I'm going to put some feathers on him. Get him to sit on my shoulder. And you never know, do you? I mean, after next week, I might be a proper pirate with a proper wooden leg.
Funnily enough, I'm just going to do my last Thailand reference. There's a crossroads. There's a crossroads in Pattaya where I go, and it's just like a staggered junction. Now there are no traffic lights. There's no road markings. There's no pavement, and it's a staggered junction, and it is complete and utter mayhem. There are no traffic lights, nothing to tell anybody what to do. And there's never an accident there. It's complete anarchy. Everybody just kind of makes room for everybody else. And that's how the world should be. You know, we don't need rules and all this shit going on. And it was that funny. Just as I'd stopped videoing it, this guy came down the road on a moped with a macaw parrot on the back seat of this moped. Now, only in Thailand. And, nobody bats an eyelid. But the point is, there's no rules other than you're kind of supposed to drive on the left. But, if you don't, then who really cares as long as you don't hit anybody? And yet, there's not any accidents that I ever see. I'm sure there are some.
Oh, is it one of them countries where you just drive in the shade, Aid?
Yeah, it's just kind of, just everybody gets on with it. And there's a staggered junction and people, there's no right of way. Just because you're on the main road, somebody can just shoot straight across and everybody's kind of pushy but cautious, and it just kind of happens. There's no traffic lights, there's no rules, there's no copper stood there with a whistle, waving anything. It's just complete anarchy, but it just happens. There's no rules, there's nobody in a uniform telling everybody what to do. There's none of that shit. It just happens. And that's how the world should be.
My mate got knocked off his motorbike this morning on his way to work on an island with no traffic lights and no police.
Yeah.
Just some knobhead who pulled out on him.
Yep.
But,
yeah, been there.
Yeah.
Got the scars to prove it.
Yeah, you have. Of course you have.
So anyway, guys, we've kind of caught up on our week. As ever, it's supposed to be a preview show, isn't it? Because we've got two pretty bloody exciting guests lined up this week. And maybe Paul would give us a bit of info about the guests because Paul's the man who's lined them up.
Well, I've known Ian a few years now. I've done a conference with Ian before for Beat the Banks and the Bailiffs. He's an interesting guy. He's very active in what he does. He's does a lot of research, and I think we're going to be talking about one of his babies, which is fracking. But I think we'll also be touching on 5G, and more than likely, as we always do, we touch on everything from geopolitics to all kinds. So I'm looking forward to speaking with Ian again. Tuesday, I've been friends with Dave Von Kleist for a while on Facebook, and I contacted him just out of the blue because I remembered seeing his film, and I didn't know Jason had seen the film 9/11 in Plain Sight, and that he'd become like a bit of an avid fan of his work or anything like that. And I didn't know until I was chatting. Didn't know until I'd become friends with him online about the radio show that he once had on the Power Hour, I believe it was, on the GCN network, where he used to promote Alex Jones's show and stuff like that. And he's like he almost did like he just completely dropped everything. So it's going to be interesting to hear his story and his experiences. And he's got a lot of interesting views. I had a nice chat with him last weekend before the show. He actually did try. He was ringing me to come on. He was ringing me to come on while we were live last week, and I couldn't get him on the show.
Yeah.
And I said, let's just leave it till next Tuesday. So, yeah, a couple of interesting guests and meaty subjects to discuss, shall we say.
Sorry, Paul. So, Ian, tell me who Ian is, because I've been out of the loop.
Ian Crane.
Ian Crane?
Oh, okay, right. Okay, now I'm up to speed, yeah.
Well, that were easy.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Wish everybody were that easy to talk to.
Yeah.
I'm particularly.
Say,
go on, carry on, Aid.
I was going to say Tuesday's guest. You mentioned 9/11 in Plain Sight. I mean, God, probably like everybody listening, I've watched just about every 9/11 thing going, and 9/11 in Plain Sight for me was one of the that was one of the groundbreakers. That was one of the ones that not only told you stuff but got you to ask questions.
Well, that's what Dave was saying, Eddie.
Yeah.
That's all he's ever done is ask questions.
Yeah, and it was the building. It was the Building 7 thing, really, for him. That was the thing that sort of that was the big unanswered one. That's the massive elephant in the room, really.
Yeah, of course it is. As they say, if one building was wired, they all were wired.
What I've always thought is whether or not it was some kind of weapon that we don't know, whether it was a torpedo or a missile or a whatever, and they painted it to look like an aircraft, or whether there were any aircraft or whatever. If I owned a building that had got that kind of secrets in it, then surely wouldn't you pre-wire it just in case they were invaded, so that they could just go, look, sorry guys, we've got to blow this because all these secrets we can't allow to get out. Wouldn't it be a standard thing to have it blown? Well,
that was one of the questions that I've actually heard raised, and the answers that seemed to come out was that if you're talking about standard demolition explosives, they've got like a shelf date, so yeah. it may not right. If you fire it, it may not go off when they want it to. So
right,
something like that, but it's not something. I mean, I always remember Danny Juenko. Jason.
Danny Juenko, yeah, he were a controlled demolition expert, weren't he? A Dutch guy.
Yeah, and they showed him the World Trade Center 7. He says, "Oh, it's a definite demolition." And then when they told him what it was, and it happened on the day, and he says, "Seriously?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well," he says it takes weeks to be able to do a building like that. If
his actual quote was
one day, he says.
His actual quote was because they said it was the same day, and he said same day, and they said yes, yeah. Same day, and he said they worked extremely hard.
Yeah.
And then he ends up dead in a road accident. Danny Juenko, he was killed in a single vehicle road accident in the rain. So there's not, but I'm really looking forward to speaking with Dave Von Kleist, because I were back in the day. I was quite heavily involved in the 9/11 stuff, and I've got quite a lot of interesting questions that I'd like to ask him about things that went on behind the scenes. I do remember a bit of a spat between him, and if I remember rightly, between him and Alex Jones in New York on one of the anniversaries. I don't know whether it was the 10th anniversary. No, it won't. It'll have been earlier than that. But there was a bit of a spat, and if I remember rightly, it was Alex Jones that was saying that he didn't want anything to do with Dave Von Kleist because somebody had attributed some comment to Dave Von Kleist about Alex Jones when it was just completely wrong. And I'm going to find it interesting, fascinating to get into what were going on behind the scenes at that time. Because I was quite heavily involved with a number of people that now. But I'm also fascinated to pick his brains on some of the forgotten things about 9/11, the forgotten evidence, the things that were when it was right at its height in like 2006, 2007, when the 9/11 movement was before everyone was on forums. This is before everyone got herded into Facebook and other social media. Everyone was on forums, and there was loads and loads of different evidence that came out, and it couldn't be the only censoring that could happen was self-censoring. You'd look and you'd say, "Well, no, I think that's a pile of shit" or whatever. But it was still there, and you still got to see it. And there were lots and lots and lots of good bits of evidence and things that have been forgotten. And I think we spoke with Andrew Johnson about this, didn't we, as well, about some of the things that were around at that time. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to Dave Von Kleist. Like he said to me when I posted on Facebook 9/11 in plain sight, he said, I think he put a comment underneath saying that 9/11 Ripple Effect had more stuff in it. But the point I was trying to make is that 9/11 in plain sight was the one that actually opened my eyes and woke me up.
I think that's the better one. If I point anybody towards a 9/11, that's the first one I tell them to go to. But just for reference, Alex Jones is a cock, fucking gatekeeper. And, if he's now distanced himself from that dickhead, then that's fine.
I think you might get some interesting answers, Jason, because when I was chatting to him, he was talking about the egos that were all around what he referred to as the 9/11 bowel movement. He said that he did say that there was a lot of people in that movement for the wrong reasons. And, it's interesting when he says all I wanted to do was ask questions. And, it's the same philosophy I have. If you're called names or you're attacked or it's illegal to ask those questions, it makes me suspicious there's something not right.
The one thing that I've noticed about the 9/11 stuff, there's probably only there can't be any more than 30 clips that are now available to see anywhere on the internet of planes hitting or, direct impact, if you like. Now, I remember at the time, or within, a few months of the event, there being a hell of a lot more than that was shown on the television at the time. But now there just seems to be this sort of group of 20 to 30 clips that, on the anniversaries or the lead up to they're the chosen bits and if you try and find any others that are not in, any of the big ones on YouTube, if you try and find any other clips, they're just not there anymore. It's like this, like Jason was saying, this evidence was there, but it's gone now. And probably never to come back again.
It certainly seems like there's been, I wouldn't say they've disappeared, but they certainly make it harder for you to get to them and find them because they need it to disappear, because anybody who's got this much common sense can look at that stuff and go, what a fucking load of bollocks. I had a mate at work 18 months ago, it was about now, and obviously he'd heard me chatting and stuff like that, and he was telling me that I'll see if I can have a chance to have a look at something. I think he found something on Netflix and he had a couple of hours spare. I don't know if it was one of Dave's films or not, but he watched it about an hour and a half long, and he come in work the next day. He says, Webby, 9/11. And I thought, oh well, here we go on. And he went, how the fuck did they get away with that? An hour and a half's research he did, and because he can think for himself, he had questions. And he said, in 2001, Webber, he said, my two little kids were like 3 and 2 and 4. He said, life took over. He said, I didn't have time to be able to sit around and do that. He said, so I've only ever seen it from BBC or Sky or something like that. He says, but when I watched that, he said, it was just, wow, how have we missed this? I remember watching it live and I just thought, this isn't right, there's something not right about this. But, life takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was actually in York that day, not New York, in York. And the chap who was running the training course that I was, supposed to be on, it kind of got cancelled because we all went and stood in front of the in front of Dixon's window watching it and just, we're not doing this training course anymore. But ironically, the guy that was running the training course, his dad was in New York that day and had actually booked breakfast in Windows on the World.
Wow.
And never went. And I can't remember the reason why.
Well, his dad's not Larry Silverstein, is he?
No, he's not, no. No, he's not, no. But, if anybody's listening and never heard of the word Larry Silverstein, Google it and just ask yourself who benefits. Because if there's one person who benefited, it was that man.
Well, put it this way, if you lease 3 buildings for 100 million, they all collapse due to fires. All right, people will say, well, planes hit them, but they collapse due to fires. All in the same day. No other steel and concrete structure's ever done it. And for his $100 million investment, he claimed something like $4.5 billion on the insurance. He tried to claim more because he said it was insured for 2 separate terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
So you can't critically think. If you're a critical thinker and you research this evidence, you can't come to any other conclusion that it stinks of shit. It's bullshit. But people are kept too busy to even be asked. It don't affect their life, so they don't think it matters. But from 9/11, everything that's happened since 9/11 has taken everything from us. It's more about rights. Then we had 7/7, and they started to take our rights over here. It's bullshit.
The only good thing about 9/11 is that it probably opened mine, Jason's, and a lot of other people's eyes and started us digging. Yeah. And if there's one thing that those thousand, the word 3,500 lives, fucking hell, it was more than that. The amount of people that must have died because of all the asbestos shit that was floating around in the air that day. Definitely. The people that were working on the pile for fucking months. 3,500 don't even fucking come close.
And then you're adding
if there's one good thing that comes from it, it's that it does open a lot of people's ears to start thinking. And while I was actually on holiday this time, one thing I did learn is if I am going to go and live out in Thailand, I need mates. And I was talking to this chap, lovely guy, 70 years old, but you'd think he was 55. And he actually brought up, 9/11 and all this shit. And he asked me what I thought. And I just said, it's pretty much like this. Who benefits? And he looked at it and went, what do you mean? I said, well, here's a good conspiracy theory for you. 19 Arabs with fuck all blow 3 buildings up. That's a fucking conspiracy theory and a half. Come on. And he said, yeah, I know. I gave him a shitload of videos to watch on YouTube. And 2 days later, I saw him in the bar and he came up and he went, Aid, I need to buy you a beer. Fucking hell, I've never seen anything like it.
It's amazing, isn't it? I showed a friend of mine. It was Loose Change 2. I showed a friend of mine, and she thought I was going to show her a film that was going to demonstrate how 19 Saudi Arabians with Stanley knives, directed by a man in a cave in Afghanistan, it's 75% of the targets after hijacking 4 planes.
Yeah.
She didn't speak to me for 3 weeks, Ada.
Who's got diabetes and fucking God knows what other illnesses, yeah.
Well, for me, it was a strange day that day because I was actually preparing to open the doors on my new business. And all I got was a transistor radio to keep me company while I was getting the shop spruced up, ready to open it. And I turned on the radio and I thought, it's a bit fucking weird. It sounds like a Radio 4 play. It reminded me a little bit of Orson Welles' War of the World and the Panic Victory. Yeah. Then I changed channel, and it was the same fucking story. I thought, this is a bit weird. What the fuck's going on? And it wasn't until I got home that night and my stepdaughter came downstairs. I think she was about 8 or 9 years old at the time, and she said, "What was it? What was the joke, Dad? Why is the Pentagon not a pentagon anymore?" I didn't even know they'd hit the Pentagon at this stage, and I went, "Why?" And she went, "Because it's a quadrilateral." And I thought, "Oh, that's pretty quick." But yeah, I mean, I just thought this can't be real. And then when I saw it, I thought that doesn't matter. And then when I started thinking about it after a while, and hang on, steel frame buildings going down, and then started looking about, and steel frame buildings have been hit by aeroplanes before and burned for 24, 48 hours, even a week. But none of them ever collapsed. And
I was going to say one in Southeast Asia somewhere that burned for a week and still didn't collapse, and they rebuilt it and renamed it.
The Madrid Tower did as well. 3 days. It burnt all the way up to the top. It never collapsed.
Windsor Tower in Madrid.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Windsor Tower in Madrid. Yeah.
Windsor Tower. That's an interesting name, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Well, I've never seen aluminium aeroplanes that. If a bird flies into the nose cone, it demolishes the nose cone. Yet these planes just disappeared into a steel and concrete building, like fucking Wile E. Coyote.
Well, listen, I'd have no problem with that, right? Because kinetic energy is completely different. The only problem is they wouldn't have been able to generate enough speed at the altitude they were going to allow for that amount of kinetic energy. So there would have been lots of debris on the floor. But I have seen where they've got one of these.
A paper passport, Jason.
No, what? Sorry. Exactly. This is what I mean. No, but all I'm saying is people fall into this trap. But if as they reported, they're supposed to be going at 543 miles an hour, which is impossible at that altitude because the air's too thick and the plane would just disintegrate in midair. Then that amount of kinetic energy would have done it, but it's just impossible at that altitude. So
if that plane was going that speed, right, it would have to have been about a tenth of the fucking size with twice the engines.
Yeah, there's definitely something smells about it. The fact is, you can't ask questions, or you're ridiculed, or you're shut down. It's people who are either got an agenda or they're just ignorant. They've not gone and looked, and if you don't go and look, you're never going to know anything, are you?
You see, the thing is, guys, as soon as you mention anything at all like this at all, somebody will say, "Oh, conspiracy theory." Well, does that make it untrue?
No.
Well, no. The mere mention of those two words, that's been around since JFK.
Yeah.
It's like a thought stopper. It's supposed to fucking
squash people,
everything. Anything that's said after that isn't supposed to matter, make sense, or be of any fucking relevance to the subject.
But they have got people.
Right.
People's brains, a lot of them, as soon as they get to conspiracy theory, then the brain reboots and the programming kicks back in.
So what we should do is we should program as ourselves that whenever somebody says, because I've had it myself, and if somebody says to me it's a conspiracy theory, I just say you're an idiot, and that's it, and just move on. You're an idiot. That should be the response. Anybody who ever says conspiracy theory, just say you're an idiot. And if they go, "Oh, why I'm an idiot?" say, "Well, they're not your words, are they? You've heard them somewhere."
That's right.
Well, if you look at it, if there's questions of a conspiracy, then there must be a proper investigation. And it only takes two fucking people to create a conspiracy. If two people conspire against another person, that's a conspiracy. If there's evidence of a conspiracy, then you could say that's theory. So in theory, there's a conspiracy. You can say that. But the factor is, it's fucking blatant. It's all over the place.
Well, as I've said many times, when there's 13 families in this world that fucking own everything, if I was one member of one of those families and I was that rich and I'd got lots of rich friends and family members, I'd fucking conspire with them to be even richer and more powerful, wouldn't you?
Well, that's what they breed for, isn't it? They inbreed with each other to keep all that power.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
But
Which brings us on to nicely, I think.
Thailand.
Fucking lizards. The new fucking lizard.
Can
Hey,
I just say something before we get on to lizards? Just a point I just wanted to make on the last thing that we've got, right? That we said, right? The problem we've got is that we've got a society, right, that are so overly dependent and overly. They worry about where they belong in the society based upon inscrutable social clues and things that happen to them, and then they try to reframe them in a way that they can sleep at night. And that's the problem we've got. People are not looking at anything with any critical thinking. What they're doing is they're looking at it and they're thinking, right, well, what's that? Well, that's probably just a conspiracy theory, and that's one of the outs that they get. Oh, that'll just be a conspiracy theory, and that's it. They don't have to think about it anymore because that's put a stop to it. Like you said, Ade, it's thought blockers.
You see, the word there, Jason, is just. It's not just a conspiracy theory. It's a theory, and the reason it's a theory is because it's got some fucking foundation, some thought, some logic, and some reason why anybody who can think critically would question it. That's what it is. It's not something that should be just brushed away like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. No, it's a logical thought brought into conversation by somebody who doesn't believe all the shit that's on the fucking BBC and every other shit channel on television. That's what a conspiracy theory is.
So, where were you going next, Adi? I think we're going to probably give this another 10 or 15 minutes if you guys are...
Listen, I know you did a programme on the new lizard, but fucking hell. We've got another one. Fucking inbred fucking cousin shagging bastards.
Well, I seen you and Andy debating that you didn't know the name of this lizard. I still don't know the name of this lizard.
Wait,
have we got a name?
Matter. It's fucking Saxe Coburg Gotha Guelph fucking Stein fucking German cunt bastard.
Fair enough, but what's its first name? Anybody know yet?
Fucking clue, don't care. Hey, I've only just learnt she's got 3. I thought it was fucking first one, me.
And then that cunt, fucking, what's his name?
It was a second one.
No, it's the third. That's the third.
Fuck knows, that's how much interest I'd taken him.
I mean, the only one who's pissed off about this is Prince Andrew because he's now fucking 3 millionth in line instead of fucking third.
Well, he's not bothered. He'll just go round to Jeffrey Epstein's fucking pad and get his sense sorted out.
Fucking moored off Jersey, ready for shagging kids.
Allegedly.
No, he fucking probably has. Fuck allegedly.
Hades on one tonight.
Well, I fucking hate the cunts, and I tell you why. Because this world fucking is big enough for all of us to have a bit. That's why. And it's
you
not
weren't bringing
right.
Thailand up again.
No, it's not right, and it's not fucking fair. Because what's fair is everybody being nice to everybody else, respecting everybody else, not taking advantage of anybody else, and just fucking living peacefully. Not like these cunts who fucking cream all the... They don't just take the cream. They take the cream, the coffee, and just leave us the fucking sediment in the bottom to argue over. Because they're cunts.
Well, I don't think anybody argue with here, Ada. Listen, we've got some people... I want to tell you about Facebook Live, because Facebook Live, halfway through this show, cut off and ended the show for me. I think it was round about the time when we were talking about 9/11, when we were talking about back in the old days of the 9/11. It went off, and so I've had to put it back on. But we've got a couple of people in here. John's in chatting in there. He says, look up for Tony Rook. Refused to buy a television licence. I think I saw that, and based upon the fact that the BBC lied about 9/11. I think he said that. I think that's what happened, and he ended up having to being ordered to buy a TV license. I don't think he got any. He got any other punishment, but he was ordered to buy a TV license.
Well, for anybody with a TV license, all you have to do, put your address, not your name, on a piece of paper, put the date on it, write the word notice. This address does not require a TV license. Don't sign it. Send it off to fucking TV licensing, recorded delivery. End of fucking story. Because all they'll do is send you a letter back going, okay then. And that's it.
Yeah, we had the same
job
thing.
done.
You don't if you tell them they write back to you usually and say, well, we'll not contact you in the next 2 years. But that's that.
I mean, I put a bit on the bottom of mine which said permanently, but you know, if they write to you, just say, well, you can fucking write to me, but if you do, I'm going to charge you £4,995, which is a fiver less than you can claim against them in small claims court, and they'll write back to you and go, all right then.
I thought it was 20,000 in small claims now.
You what, mate?
I thought it was 20,000 in small claims.
Oh, is it? Normally, $5,000 fucks them off, so I don't care.
All right.
I've had 6 full investigations by the cunts in the last 18 months. I've not seen a fucker at all.
Yeah,
I get a letter saying I'm under full investigation. I've written to them. They never even wrote back to me. So it seems to be different for different people, but it's probably the easiest thing you could fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy knock at my door and he said, "Can I come in?" I went, "Yeah, if you got the admission fee." He went, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the admission fee is $10,000 in cash. So either you can come in if you got $10,000 or you can fuck off." And funnily enough, he fucked off.
When I opened the door to him, to one of them in 2014, I was on my way out to court, and I opened the door and this fella stood in front of me and he waved this badge at me and I could see TV on it. I says, "Can I help you?" He says, I can only speak to the tenant, mate." I said, "Have you read me sign?" He went, "That's all you had to say, pal." And off he went. That was it. He'd read the sign, the removal of implied rights, and then he just said, "That's all you had to say, pal," and off he went.
You see, I now refer to my best mate, Jason. You know,
pointing to Andy on my screen.
No, slaves used to wear chains, and now they wear a laminated badge.
Yeah, lanyards.
Yeah.
They do. Anyway, fellas, anybody got all to add? I think we've got about 40 minutes on that. That's the preview. We're going to be back tomorrow night. Don't forget with Ian Crane. Ian Crane's going to be joining us. Whoever wants in on that, you're in on it. It's up to you guys. And on Tuesday, Dave Von Kleist. The following week, I'm not going to be in. I'm off into hospital on Sunday for an operation that's going to be taking place on Tuesday. So I'll maybe in the following week. Hopefully, I will be if I'm okay. If I'm up to it. If I get out of fucking hospital, that's for a start.
But that's if you don't die.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, I'm away for a week from the 18th as well, so I'll be missing that week as well. So not much of Jace this May, but I'm sure the guys Paul, Andy, and Aid will keep you entertained, and I'm sure we all will tomorrow night. Any final comments, guys?
Yeah, I've got one. Well, as for next week, there'll obviously be no preview show because you're going to be in hospital and I won't be around to produce that. Monday, I don't know what time we're getting home, so I suggest we say we're having a night off. What do you reckon, fellas?
Oh, of course, it's bank holiday a week tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, we anybody who's missing us, just go to our Spreaker or YouTube channel, and there's about 177 podcasts on there for you to choose from, and you can hear our dulcet tones. And for anybody who wants to come and meet me next weekend, get yourself over to Spirit of the Marsh, spiritofthemarsh.com. It's a great weekend over on the East Coast, just near Mablethorpe. I see Doug Maddox is there in Facebook. Doug's one of the organisers. I'm looking forward to meeting him and having a chat with him next week. This is I think it's our 3rd year, but it's really refreshing to just go and get out in a field with a load of pagans and no Facebook and no nothing, just some fascinating talks, workshops. There's loads of stalls there. There's rituals, and there's a great evening of musical entertainment with a cracking bar, fantastic bar staff. So anyone who fancies that, get yourself over at spiritofthemarsh.com. You can either go and camp for the weekend or get a day ticket, stall holders, whatever you want.
Brilliant.
That's me.
I would just say one thing. I did go to Mablethorpe once. It's not quite the end of the world, but you can fucking see it.
Go on, Webby. Give us a last word, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, I think the last word has got to be for poor Alfie, hasn't it? Poor Alfie Evans, with everything that's gone on with that family and everything there. It's again the term conspiracy theories and theorists are being thrown about over all the hay, but I think we're going to have to cover this subject at some point because. With the scandal that happened back in 2001 with body parts being harvested and stuff like that, there's obviously something that is behind that. And I do know people who love Alder Hay, and this is no slant on the staff, but, the staff aren't going to know specifically what's going on in the backgrounds. There's questions possibly about the vaccinations that this child had, and he was, he's deteriorated since then. There was no diagnosis. Italy said, send him over here. We'll pay for everything. We'll try and diagnose him. We'll keep him going. They said no. They pulled the plug on him. He survives when they said he'd only last for 3 minutes. But then the court say don't feed him or anything like that. So they virtually sentenced the child to death. Now, if they can do that in a death panel, where does it stop? You've got a suicide fucking hospital, assisted hospital being built on Jersey. Where does it end? So I think we'll have to cover that soon, but the family and little Alfie are in my prayers.
Can I just point out one thing? Who owns Jersey?
Yeah.
Mrs. fucking Guelph, bitch.
David Icke?
Fucking Liz.
David Icke.
David Icke. Who, by the way, happy birthday to him today. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, David Icke.
The trick. It's for everybody who missed it, doesn't know about it. It was Jason's birthday yesterday. Hope you had a cracking one, mate.
I had a very quiet one. It was one where I didn't have to speak or deal with members of any other body apart from my wife and selected others. But I really enjoyed it. Really quiet, and it's 48. That's there. 49 next. That's what I'm aiming for.
You might as well be dead. Fucking hell, that's old.
Tell you what, he's mentioned you and death quite a few times in a few sentences already, Jason.
I know it. I hope he don't come back and bite him on the arse.
Yeah, but what do you
call him the Grim Reaper now.
What do you expect? He's my best mate. Why would I not?
Anyway, listen, folks. Thanks for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play out with our new Trainwreck Radio. It's our intro for Monday night, so I'm going to play out with this. It's our new. It's a world exclusive. Nobody from outside the Raconteurs news circle has heard this yet, but I'm going to play. It's a new one by Heath. It's going to be our intro for tomorrow night. So enjoy this, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Bye. You're listening to Raconteurs News. It's 2018. I fucking said 2018 now instead of 2018. Like a wanker.
This is live radio, people. What the BBC tell us isn't what the government want us to believe, then just think of that and, think about who benefits, because at the bottom of everything is somebody benefiting from something somewhere. And there's one thing for sure. It fucking ain't me, and it ain't you.
And it's happening again. 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 And it's happening again.
It's down to us then to sort it out then, isn't it?
You get a dog, or a wolf, or a spider, or a snake. How can you get a snake to be the same species as a dog? It's easy. before the species have bites you.
Weird.
Have bites you.
Yeah. Right.
Have bites you.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a choice. Yeah, you've got a choice.
Well,
You want a punch in the face or a kick in the bollocks?
Jesus. So what did you want to talk about?
Bollocks. Yes, Jason's bollocks. No bills of exchange.
That's how much I'm interested in fucking cricket.
We're not sure of a modicum of intelligence, would you see, Billy?
Exactly.
All they're thinking is, all they're thinking is, all they're thinking is. Which one of us are you going to propose to this evening?
A load of men who don't have sex.
Yeah.